Good evening, everybody. It's Monday night, and we're back together for a little Monday Night Michael, talking about your homeowners associations and the best way to deal with the coronavirus, otherwise known as COVID-19. We're glad that you've taken a little bit of your time to join us tonight, and I hope that you'll find the information that we have prepared beneficial to yourself, your board, and your community. We're going to kind of sum up the last 4 weeks tonight and give you our recommendations moving forward. Hopefully everyone can see the screen and the slides, and that the audio and video is working well tonight. We are in lecture mode, so everyone is muted. If you do have a question, a couple times during the presentation, the announcer will announce that the Q&A is available, and you can say that you have a question, and the computer will also tell you when you've been unmuted and can ask that question. So once again, our weekly reminder about the Community Associations Institute's website, CAIonline.org. A wealth of information is available here in the blue section on the home page, and then it takes you to a ton of resources that you can look at. Those are updated on a daily basis. This is the same picture from 3 weeks ago, but it is updated daily. I want to remind everyone, so we are going to try to do this at least once a month going forward. Obviously, the amount of time that it takes to put together each broadcast is a little lengthy, and so we want to get back to running the office a little bit. And so we will have one in May. It'll probably be 1 week prior to Memorial Day. We'll make a final decision soon and get that information out to you. Tomorrow at noon, we will be having our first virtual board lunch and learn. It'll be 1 hour. You provide your own lunch and can stay at home at work and watch. The beginning of our insurance series for the year. 4 of our topics this year will deal with insurance. And tomorrow we'll be talking about directors and officers insurance. We have special guest Lamond Woods from Century West Insurance and 2 underwriters from Distinguished Group. We'll be talking about directors and officers insurance, the requirements, the differences between embedded and standalone policies, and also talking about several great directors and officers stories that the underwriters have to kind of give us a good example of why it's so important for your association to have the correct kind of directors and officers insurance. For those of you who may not know, directors and officers insurance is the insurance that protects you should you be sued for doing your duties as a board member. So we have finally been able to get the previous week set up, and I'm going to try to just log out of here for a second and go to the website. So hopefully you're seeing the screen on here. So if you go to our website, hoaliving.com, loads up a little bit slow because we're doing the webcast at the same time. But up in the top right corner, loading, under the board training, and then the Monday Night Mike, same place you would go to register if you saw information about us on social media. Then you would go here, and then right above the icon, right here is this webcast library hyperlink. It's disappearing when I put the mouse over it. But if you click on that webcast library link, then you can see the first 3, the last 3 that we did, and there's the webcast link and then the slides. Some people have asked for the slides. So we, because the size of these videos are so extensive, the webcast will take you to our YouTube channel, and then you can view the the presentation there. Basically, it's the slides and a little picture of me in the corner. And then the slides are black and white of everything that you've seen on the screen the first 3 weeks. We will be able to get, by tomorrow afternoon, tonight's presentation, both the slides and the webcast posted and hyperlinked here. So if you missed any of the first 3 weeks, you can go back and watch. And you can also, the nice advantage is you can just mute me. So you don't even have to hear me. You can just look at the information. So I failed to put in the delinquency trends last week, and it really got me thinking, as that is a big concern for all of us in the association, management industry, and you as board members. So let's look at the delinquency trends through today. And I've got rid of a lot of the information to make it simpler for you to see. So this on the screen are the delinquency amounts for our company. All of you, the 240-ish associations that we manage, about 28,000 total homes in Utah and some in Idaho. You can see on the last day of the month how much was delinquent for each month. Once again, January is adjusted because we bill about $600,000 extra in January for associations that are just on a quarterly or annual assessment billing. So that's seasonally adjusted. But if you can see, we were concerned when we talked in our first webcast on April 6th because the March numbers had come in, and as you can see, they were up from the previous 3 months last day. We believe, that March 11th was the date of Rudy Gobert tested positive for the virus, and so we weren't quite sure if March would show too much delinquency, since 95% of associations, the due date is the 10th of each month. So most people should have paid or have dropped off their payment in the mail on the 10th or before the 10th, and so by the 11th, kind of when the world started shutting down, most people should have already paid their March. But as you can see, the average, it went up about $21,000 from the previous month. If you look at the averages, the average balance December through February of delinquencies for FCS customers was $368,000 basically. You throw March into that average, and because March had increased, the average delinquencies rose about $6,500 to $374,400. Well, I have good news for April. So through today, April 27th, our delinquencies are at $375,728. So they're actually back in line with the previous month's time periods. I don't know what the little blip in March is, but when you're looking at several $1 million, there could be a variety of reasons. It could have simply been the amount of people who, in associations, who are due later than the 10th, but before the last day of the month, just with kind of the general craziness of things shutting down and working from home, paying their assessments, if not automatically set up, may have been not the foremost of their mind. And that may have led to the March delinquencies being a little bit higher than in the previous quarter of months. So April 27th, $375,728 is just barely above the December through March average, and we still have 4 full business days not calculated into here. So I'm feeling confident April will be at or below average for delinquencies. It's a very encouraging sign that with the record unemployment and the economy where it is, that the HOA assessments are still being paid. This does kind of make sense a little bit if you think about probably 80% of those who have been laid off or furloughed are renters and not homeowners. You would think that for the investment owners who own investment properties in our associations, there would be some correlation to them not being able to get their rent and paying their association fees. But so far, so good. So I'm encouraged. I'm really encouraged by the delinquencies thus far this month, and I hope that we'll be able to continue to see the assessment delinquencies not changing. Let me just click through. There are a lot of chats in the chat room. Looks like they're access devices, questions. Yeah, and then actually someone asked about quarterly billing, because we do have quarterly billing of assessments in our portfolio. It's the first month of each quarter, so January, April, July, and October. And I'm not sure, I haven't looked at that number per se lately, but we don't do a lot of quarterly billing. I would say it's a 1 to 2% of our total annual billing. We do a lot of annual billing and monthly, but I don't think we do too much quarterly billing. And if we did, it would be reflective in April, not in March. Scott, I can see you. Do we do very much quarterly billing? Do we do any quarterly billing? Okay, I can't hear you. I can just see you shaking your head. So we do a little bit of quarterly billing, and so that should be adjusted. And so since we do a little bit of quarterly billing, the April numbers are even happier to me, because they're in line with a regular month. We'll get more information for our next discussion in May. Yeah, Todd, you bring up that we had a large delinquency or amount owing collected, but just remember, all of our numbers here are accrual numbers. So this is amount billed, so it doesn't mean collected or not collected. And so, well, it does in the particular month, but if they owed for previous months, it's not a cash basis, so it shouldn't make a significant difference. But that's a good question. So May, where do we go in May? I think too early to tell, but I'm still encouraged. So once again, what are our recommendations for your associations to deal with potential delinquencies? 7 weeks into this now, 6 weeks into this now, we're not seeing it, but the potential is definitely there. The tidal wave, you hear different talks about the tidal waves through the virus. There might be an HOA assessment delinquency tidal wave that is still 30 to 60 days out. Once again, no April and May late fees and interest. Continue your collection policies as they are written, but we are including this flyer which says we're here to help. Your well-being is important to us. Please let us know if you've been affected by the coronavirus. That's the tiny print down at the bottom of the flyer, and gives them a special email address to our team that we've set up to deal with that. Every single, from a late fee notice to a lien, is getting this special flyer added into that mailing that goes to the homeowner. Remember to treat all similar situations the same. So if we're generous in the things that we would do for a delinquent account, during the coronavirus, then we probably need to be consistent in that generosity when special situations arise in the future. And our advice to stop all monthly auto transfers that your association may have set up to move operating funds into your reserve accounts. Temporarily stop. Because of our state statute in Utah anyways, we are unable to use reserve funding for operating expenses without a majority vote of all homeowners in your association. A very tall task to be able to do that. So if we stop putting money into reserves, that might give us a little more liquidity. Also, just a reminder that FCS's general practice is to have savings accounts listed on your balance sheet, not reserve accounts, to try to not lock down those funds like they would be as if they were in a reserve account. We talked about, I proposed some legislation. It's kind of hit a brick wall on changing the current statute. So it is what it is. Stay as liquid as possible temporarily. You can move, instead of automatic transferring that to a reserve account, automatically move it to a savings account. And in 3 or 4 months, if your association feels that you're plenty liquid and you don't need any of those funds, then you can tie them up into a reserve account. But don't just lock up funds now. Let's keep them as liquid as possible. So the SBA loans, we talked about last week that there was no money for the SBA programs, and now there's new money. The government has a great way of printing it very rapidly. It's not real, but it's there. The PPP program and the EIDL loans have reopened back up. Once again, the PPP program is not available to community associations. However, the EIDL loans are available to community associations. It's predicted that these funds will run out by Wednesday. So if you feel like your association wants to apply for an economic injury disaster loan, that needs to be completed very quickly. We talked about these different criteria for an association to get one of these EIDL loans. The community association must be incorporated, which all of you are. It must be used for working capital necessary until normal operations are resumed. The community association is unable to pay ordinary operating expenses such as accounts payable. You may not fund expenses like payment of dividends and expansion of facilities. So if your association was to get an EIDL loan, you can't, if you were to get $100,000 and you had 100 members, you couldn't send a check for $1,000 to each owner as a distribution. That would be illegal under the criteria of the loan. You also couldn't use that $100,000 to put in a swimming pool that you don't currently have. No expansion of facilities. It's a $2 million maximum, 30 years at 2.75% for all of our nonprofit association corporations. Here's a couple of things that we didn't necessarily know that we've cleared up, however. One more. We did know loans exceeding $25,000 must be collateralized, but the collateral can be future assessments. So future assessments the association has coming in can be used to make the payment. Here's the things that we didn't know or that we were unclear on that we've received clarification on that kind of make the EIDL loan a little less interesting. The community association officer, a community association officer, so the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, must submit your name and your social security number on the application. We can do the application for you as a third party. We have to disclose if we're charging you any fees, We're not charging any fees. We really don't think anyone, because of these requirements, is going to take advantage of it. But you have to submit, you have to give us your name and Social Security number, and your credit report will be ran. So I don't know, I can't find clarification on, well, I'm the association treasurer, I have mild to moderate credit. Does that mean I'm not approved? I don't know. We can't find that kind of information. What we do know, and I have had friends across the country in the first go-round who did apply and receive funding through the EIDL loan program, but it was because a board member used their Social Security number and their name to apply for the EIDL loan. If you Google SBA EIDL, you will get to the SBA.gov website and the application to fill out. It's not too extensive. If you want to do this, you want to use your Social Security number and your credit, whatever that means, to try to apply for an auto loan, speak to your community manager no later than tomorrow would be my recommendation, because these funds will disappear quickly as well. All right, so reopenings. We talked about last week the reopening of our common area amenities. And what are the liabilities? I want all of us to be thinking, what is at risk with us reopening our facilities? And we showed the news story about Walmart being sued by families of their employees who have died from the coronavirus. The families, of course, are, the allegation is that they contacted the virus at work. They had to work, the work didn't do enough, and therefore they caught the virus and they've passed away. And the family are suing these employers. Even though there's very little chance that anyone would be able to prove where an individual contacted and caught the virus. But I want us thinking in that vein as we look at recommendations for reopening our facilities. Remember, all this is based on Governor Herbert's and the Economic Commission he has put together that has come out with the Utah Leads Together 2.0 plan. And we'll just go through it quickly because this is what we went through last week. If you want more information on this, watch last week's webcast on YouTube. You can get the link there through our website. But the Utah Leads Together is a phased and color-coded plan to reopen businesses and life as we know it. The codes are red, orange, yellow, and green. We're currently in the red high-risk category. The plan does say that different parts of Utah will reopen at different times. I've seen that, I believe I saw a note from our St. George office today that certain things in St. George reopen tomorrow. If you're in Salt Lake County or Summit County, we are going to be at the end of things reopening. So this graphic from the Utah Leads Together 2.0 is to show you that it might be done by counties, by cities, but if you hear something's happening in St. George, it does not mean that it's happening in West Valley. Or if you hear that something's happening in Logan, it doesn't mean that it's happening in Heber City. So be aware and understand what your local requirements are. The overview for the general public, we highlighted where we are in red now, and just the main things that I believe are related to associations we boxed off and showed you last week. We talked about outdoors, parks, playgrounds, and swimming pools. We talked about the gyms and the fitness centers in our communities. And remember, we're in red everywhere pretty much, but we're going, the goal, I believe the goal of Governor Herbert is to do, to be in the orange by May 1st. May 1st to May 4th. So that's Friday to Monday. And so that's a statewide. And the other thing I want to point out is these are all recommendations. They are not orders. They are not directives necessarily. We call them directives, but they are recommendations. And you as an association have the choice to follow or to not follow. But I want you to go back and think about the liabilities. Someone just posted, looks like Scott posted, there's KUTV news article. So St. George is reopening as of tomorrow. Sand volleyball courts, tennis courts, and pickleball courts. So have you played that pickleball? They are crazy about the pickleball in St. George. They love the pickleball. So I'm sure they're all very excited to have that back open tomorrow. But just because they're back open does not mean that other areas of the state are back open. So we have come up with, and literally at 5:52 tonight, posted our draft. We've been going through the draft over the weekend, and we are presenting this as our recommendations to you and your associations for reopening your common areas. So first we want to let you know what we and these will be available tomorrow, so you can look at these, the resolution. I tried to blow it up as big as possible. There's so much information, but I wanted to be able to make it maximum size. But this is what we are doing, the FCS offices, and in regards to board meetings and our employees working. My number one job is the health and safety of my employees, and then my number two job is the health and safety of you and your associations. And so this is what we are doing. I'm going to try to get fancy here and get my drawing tool, which could be very, very dangerous. So we are currently in the high risk period now, and this is what, these are the general things that all employers are doing, and then I've put in bold what we as a company are doing. So the very first thing is everyone in the state is supposed to be trying to work from home first, and then where not possible, comply with distancing and hygiene guidelines. Eliminate unnecessary travel and cancel or postpone in-person meetings and conferences, workshops, and trainings, and require employees to self-quarantine returning from high-risk areas. So here is the specifics to how FCS has been acting during this red period. All offices are closed to customers and non-essential employees. We recommended that all association meetings be postponed through April 15th. After April 15th, all board meetings held virtually through this Start Meeting video conference application that we're using tonight. We recommend continuing to postpone all owner meetings. These are your annual meeting, your special owner meetings, anything that involves all your membership, to continue to postpone those through at least May the 31st. After May 31st, all owner meetings, we'll start doing those virtually as well. Employees, when visiting communities or working outside of a home, we ask them to wear face coverings, and all employee meetings and board trainings are being held virtually. This is now, we're hoping, right, that we go to, look at my fancy writing, not very good here, but We go into this moderate risk beginning about May 1st. Don't have a date. I haven't heard a date from the governor yet, but we continue providing accommodation to our high-risk employees. We will be symptom checking for all our employees who do come to work, wearing face coverings if we're within 6-foot distance of others, and still eliminating unnecessary travel and meetings. So we will continue, whoops, as I cross things off inadvertently. All offices in the orange time period, which Governor Herbert thinks will be about 2 to 3 months. So sometime in the month of July, FCS will continue to keep all offices closed to customers. Non-high-risk employees will return to the offices at least 1 day a week. We will take the temperature of all employees at the beginning of each shift. We will check for other symptoms. No symptoms or contact with infected persons within 14 days to be able to come to the office, and we will keep a log of our employees' health who come into the office. All of our break rooms, our conference rooms, and our meeting rooms will continue to be closed through the orange period. Employees, when visiting communities or working outside of home office, will continue to wear face coverings. All employee meetings and board trainings held virtually. Then in the low risk, in yellow, which we hope is the second half of the summer, we will reopen all of our offices to walk-in traffic. Non-high-risk employees will return to offices 2 days a week. We will have protective plastic partitions between customer counters and employees. We will have stop signs and clear markings of the 6-foot social distancing areas. Then we will have in-person board meetings may resume in the yellow. If you have a big enough area, it's social distancing. However, we still encourage the virtual board meetings. Break rooms, we strongly encourage the virtual board meetings, I should say. Break rooms, conference rooms, and meeting rooms will remain closed at FCS, and employees continue to wear face coverings, and all employee meetings and board trainings will continue to be in the virtual environment. Once we get to what they're calling the new normal, this is not clear. This is not a vaccine or a medication, but the new normal, hopefully by fall, they're hoping all offices will be open to customers and employees. Non-high-risk employees will return to offices at least 3 days a week. We will continue to encourage remote working where possible. And in-person board meetings may resume, but we still encourage virtual meetings. All owner meetings remain virtual. So if it's a large meeting, we still want you to do it in a virtual environment. All right, let's look at, see if I can move my, there we go, maybe. Scott, help me. Okay, let's see here. Erase all drawings. There we go. Okay. So let's talk about your community association common areas. So you know how we as an employer are going to work. The highest level of safety and protection for the employees. My employees that are watching are sending me little jokes on my phone about how my artistic skills need some improvement. So I apologize for the distraction. So let's look at common areas. I've broken them down. I won't use the drawing, but general guidelines, and then playgrounds, clubhouses, fitness rooms, gyms, pools, hot tubs, and then some other common areas. So the general in this red environment, community associations take extreme precautions. Minimize face-to-face interaction, essential interaction in groups of up to 10. The only time I would want you as a board is maybe doing a landscape inspection, so where you could keep great distance out, and that should be no more than 10 people. We're operating remotely, wear face coverings, leave home infrequently, and eliminate unnecessary travel and cancel or postpone in-person meetings. In the orange that we're headed into, and we won't go all the way through these, but in the orange, basically it's the same, but it goes up to 20 people in the orange that can be having interactions, but it's still the social distancing of 6 feet. We also want to encourage everyone to use the Utah's Healthy Together app. You go into your app store for your Apple device or for your Android device and look up Healthy Together. I don't think it's called Utah's Healthy Together. Healthy Together, this is an app that tracks you if you give it the permissions and tells you if you have been in an area where someone with the virus has been, if you have crossed paths. We feel this is very important as we reopen our pools and our fitness rooms and our clubhouses a little bit, that if someone comes to a function or comes to the pool and ends up getting the virus or has the virus, that other people who were there can quickly find out that they were in the vicinity of someone that had the virus and can self-quarantine then for 14 days. That's through the Healthy Together app. We would encourage you to include it on signs at your clubhouses and your pools, your fitness rooms, and in your common areas. You can see then as we go to low risk, 50 people can be together, but still supposed to be within 6-foot social distancing guidelines. And then in the normal risk, the new normal in the fall, take reasonable precautions. Let's look at playgrounds. Playgrounds are closed, and we've posted signs. Most associations have posted signs that they're closed. Haven't fenced them off per se. Our recommendation in the moderate risk is that you keep your playgrounds closed and keep the signs posted. In the low risk, in the middle of the summer in yellow, you open your playgrounds, but you post signs to not use if symptomatic or exposed to the virus within 14 days, that the playground equipment is power washed with disinfectant once per week, or whatever your association is going to pay to do every other day or every 3 days is would be a little pricey and price prohibited. But whatever you do, I think you notify people what you do, and then you use at your own risk. Then when we get to the new normal in green, you open and you do the same exact thing for people and let them know how often the equipment's clean. I mean, as we know, we clean and disinfect common areas now. That's only as good till the first person with the virus walks through 5 minutes later. I'm seeing a couple chats that are saying the app is called Healthy Together COVID-19. Clubhouses. Clubhouses are currently closed. When we get into this orange moderate risk shortly, remember these are FCS's recommendations for your community based on the governor's recommendations for businesses. You can modify these as you see fit. Just remember the liability question. So clubhouses, once we get into this orange area in the next week for probably most of the state, but likely not for Salt Lake and Summit counties. Reservation of groups up to 20 or 1 attendee per 36 square feet. So that's the 6-foot social distancing, right, is 36 square feet. So if you have a clubhouse general meeting room that's only 360 square feet, we recommend that you only have 10 people in a reservation, not the 20 that the orange moderate level would allow. We recommend that, once again, attendees use at their own risk. And the attendees, the people making the reservation for the clubhouse, are responsible to completely disinfect the clubhouse before and after their event. And that we have a minimum of 2 hours between reservations. It's not the good old days on a Saturday when we could have a reservation from 8 to noon, and one from noon to 4, and one from 4 to 8. We want to have some distance time in between. Kind of the thinking is a lot of people make a reservation and they don't contemplate the time to clean after. So if they have a reservation till noon, the next reservation's not till 2. They actually use it till noon. That still gives them time to disinfect it, and then the next person has time to come in and re-disinfect it. Once we get into the yellow, low risk for clubhouses later in the summer, your reservations can go up to 50 people, but the same 36 square foot per attendee should be in place. So 36 times 50 is about 2,100, I think, square feet. If you don't have a clubhouse that's at least 2,100 square feet, you should not have 50 people in a reservation. Once again, use at your own risk. The people with the reservation disinfect before and after, and at least 2 hours between reservations. Once we get into the green, new normal this fall, projected to be this fall, could be later, could be sooner. I hope it's sooner. Attendees use at their own risk, and once again, we make the attendees responsible for disinfecting before their reservation and after their reservation. These are our recommendations in consultation with attorneys and insurance professionals on how to reduce the liability to you as an association. Sorry, talking a lot. Fitness rooms and gyms. Fitness rooms and gyms in the red period are closed. We recommend that in the orange moderate risk they remain closed. Why? If you go look at the governor's recommendations for gyms, it says a staff member, which contemplated as an employee, is the person who disinfects gym equipment between each use. We don't have any gyms that have a dedicated full-time employee to monitoring in our company, and so we recommend that gyms stay closed through the orange period. Once we get in the yellow period, limit the number of users to 1 person per 120 square feet. 1 person per 120 square feet. If you have a gym that's only 200 square feet, that's 1 person using it at a time. If you have 240 square feet, that's 2 people, but they need to stay 10 feet away from each other at all times. The community association provides cleaning supplies and post signs encouraging patrons to clean all equipment before and after each use. So very similar to the clubhouse reservation, if we're putting the liability, we're transferring the risk to the person who's using the facility and asking them to clean before and after use of the gym equipment. However, if supplies remain limited and the community association cannot supply cleaning supplies and disinfectants, that you keep the facility closed. And we are searching and trying to find disinfectants and cleaning materials just like everybody else. They are not readily available currently. And we do have some industrial cleaners like we talked about in the first webcast that our maintenance company is using to clean things, but it is not something that you could set a bucket of inside of a fitness room and expect a regular patron to be able to use on equipment safely. So if there are no supplies, and hopefully the supply chain is restocked by the time we get into yellow, if we don't have the supplies, don't open the facility. Then in the green, new normal, the community association still provides supplies. The patron cleans before and after the use of the equipment. However, in the green period, we can say the community association, if the supplies remain limited, instruct patrons that they provide their own disinfectant when coming to their gym or fitness areas. And we will open this up for questions when I'm done reviewing this in just a minute. Pools and hot tubs. Here's the big winner chicken dinner. Thank you for the laughs, those on the screen. Sorry, I don't know where I'm really tired tonight. I apologize. So pools and hot tubs closed currently. We get into this orange period, which most of the state might be in the next week. Hopefully Salt Lake and Summit counties are by Memorial Day weekend. Pools must be at 50% capacity of the posted bather load, with no congregating on the pool decks. Our liability recommendations for you are that associations change their rules to not allow any guest. So most associations, it says the residents plus 4 guests, or plus 6 guests, or plus 2 guests. Well, guests are coming from outside of the community, which increases contamination, increases spread of the virus. So our recommendation is that during this time period, you keep it for residents only and no guests. We also recommend that you do not put out your deck chairs, your loungers, or any tables. That you keep the deck bare. You have people bring blankets or their own chairs. That you hire a pool attendant to 1, notify patrons of capacity issues, and 2, disinfect all rails, doorknobs, gate handles, and bathroom surfaces on a regular basis. The pool attendant is not a police officer. If strict compliance to these recommendations is desired by your association, we recommend that you contract with a security company. And that you have lots of updated signage. All of these recommendations include updated signage, of course, and including but not limited to not entering if symptomatic or exposed to the virus in the last 14 days, and to use at your own risk. Later in the summer, when we get to the yellow, low risk ranking, still the same rules. Let's see, but yeah, it looks like just the column width is different, so it looks longer, but the same rules for the yellow. So all summer, this entire pool season, we recommend these same standards. And that follows the governor's standards for 50% capacity, bathing load, and no congregating on the pool deck. Once again, like I said last week, the governor's economic team did not say, let's tell community associations how to reopen their common areas. This is our interpretation of the governor's recommendations for businesses in consultation with other experts to give you our best practices recommendation. Once we're in the green, which essentially would be the 2021 pool season, except for those of you that are down in the St. George area, normal bather load, restore the previous guest policy, return the pool furniture, and have pool monitors to enforce rules and to look at check-in information as normal. We look forward to that next summer. Couple last things here for common areas. And we were putting this in really quick because we knew we were getting ready for the broadcast. So sorry, it's not all uniform, but elevators, the recommendation currently is one rider at a time. We recommend that during the moderate risk. During the low risk, multiple riders, but face coverings, and then just a normal disinfecting schedule in the green. Common safety railings, so stairwell railings, anything else that's high-touched. Mailbox clusters, not necessarily the post office owned and controlled on a public street, but if you're an association, if the mailboxes were to be ran over and you, the association, gets to replace them, there's some liability there for you as an association, especially those of you who have mail rooms in your clubhouses or in your buildings. Absolute liability. Disinfecting daily, the mailbox clusters also, and the trash dumpsters. We're talking about the big 6-yard, 8-yard trash dumpsters. We're talking about in a multi-story building, trash chutes, the doors, the entrances, anything that is touched on a regular basis. All these things to disinfect daily now and through the orange and the yellow risk periods until we get into the green normal risk periods. That's a lot of information, a lot of suggestions for you as an association. And so our challenge for you now is, I put the slide, your name of your association, River Run Leads Together, or Belmont Leads Together, or Hidden Valley Leads Together. You as a community take these recommendations, you decide what you want to do with them, and you make the same charts for the amenities that are applicable for your community, and you publish this and get this out to your community members. Of course, all this changes so very fast. Tomorrow, some announcement could happen that could make things restricted for longer, or could shorten the windows of the restrictions. We just still do not know in this ever-changing environment. But for now, we are going to send you board members an email tomorrow or Wednesday, and we're going to let you know that we're sending these recommendations to your owners next Monday of next week, which I believe is May the 4th. We're going to send this to all your owners unless you tell us otherwise. So you could tell us this week, don't send anything to our homeowners on Monday. We're going to meet on Monday and discuss it. We'll send something out on Tuesday. But our call volume is increasing exponentially, especially in southern Utah where it's 90+ degrees already, and people want the swimming pools back open. And as we're in the low 80s here in northern Utah this upcoming week, people are going to call. They're going to know that the swimming pool's not necessarily open this time of year, but they are going to want to know what the plan is for Memorial Day weekend. And they're going to want to start using the clubhouse for reservations. So either say FCS, we're good, just go with what you came up with. Or we're going to do our own modifications and we want you to send that out. It's no, we're not tied to our recommendations. That's a great thing. That's why I love being involved in the HOA industry, because each association gets to decide and govern your association yourself. Whatever it is, we need to communicate the overall plan. Today, orange, yellow, and green to our homeowners in our community so that they understand and can see where are we going from here. All right. I'm going to open up quickly here, and I'm going to do the Q&A. If you have a question you would like to ask, click on the Q&A button, and you'll pop up, and the computer will tell you it is your time to ask a question. Jim.
Yeah, come to me last because mine has nothing to do with anything you've discussed tonight.
Very good. Let's see. I don't know if I can move you to the end. You might have to come back in, but let's see. Let's hang on with Jim live on the line for just a second. I'm not seeing any other questions. We will send out to all of you, once again, all the board members will be sent out tomorrow, the FCS recommendations for your common areas, and you with the kind of the timelines that we're looking at. I'm not seeing any other questions. Well, just as I said that, Jim, so hang on. When I release you, then jump back in, okay?
Thank
you. Jenny.
Hi, I just want some clarification on the no congregating on the pool deck. I'm assuming it's to avoid all the touching of the equipment and stuff like that, so bringing in your own chairs helps us not have multiple people touching the same stuff. Is that kind of what the goal is here?
Yeah, exactly. Now, it's just a recommendation, and this was a sticking point. We talked to about 24 people earlier this morning, and we were talking about, well, what does congregate mean? And how, once again, we're trying to look at it, what's the biggest liability for you as an association, and we thought, well, we set up the deck chairs so that they're spaced apart, but you can congregate with your group of 10 in your family, so they all get moved together, but then that family leaves. It's an unattended pool, and then the next group comes in, 3 groups come in, 3 groups of 3, and they all end up sitting next together. So what we want to, and so if you didn't hear the question was, what is your kind of your rationale for your explanation of, or your recommendation of not having the pool furniture out on the deck? So to reduce liability, we're recommending folks bring their own chairs, their own towels. It'll also, if you got a towel on the hard concrete, your time at the pool isn't going to be too long, if you're me, anyways. And so we think that will keep the rotation, because we are also worried about, with the limited bather capacity, that people can never get in the pool because the early birds got there and are there and using the 50% occupancy all day. So that's another, it's the recommendations. Your association's welcome to do what they want to do, but that's our recommendation. Does that help, Jenny?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Let's see here. Jim, you got to punch back in. You got to hit that Q&A again. I might be able to, let me see. Jim, I've unmuted you, it looks like.
Okay.
There we go.
I was playing on the portal today and was looking at stuff from the architectural committee. Do I have the ability to go in and make any comment about something that's in there? There's things that have been requested, we have approved, but I can't say done or anything. Do I have to come to somebody at FCS, or can I do it?
That's a great question. Jim's talking about the HOA Living owner portal. As board members, you have special access for architectural control. I'm going to unmute Scott, and he's going to give us the answer.
It depends on the setting of your community. If you've been set up as an architectural committee member, then you should be able to message and give approval, which your manager will see. If you're the architectural chair, after all the votes have been given, then you can approve or deny that ARC. We just have to look at the settings and see how everything is lined up for your particular community.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I am on the board and at the present time have been doing the architectural committee stuff. So I need to be
for which community?
Craig Estates.
Craig Estates. So let me look at that.
I'll let you. Scott, can you get a hold of Jim offline and then go over that? So,
for sure.
And then maybe just look up Jim, make sure we have his current contact information, and then Scott can even share his screen with you, Jim, so you can have a little one-on-one training there. Thank you.
I can talk to him tomorrow. No big deal.
Okay, we'll do it tomorrow then. All the days kind of run together, anyways. All right, so I'm going to in the Q.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for participating and watching tonight. If you have any additional questions, go ahead and email them in to your community manager or to McKenna, who was in the email, my assistant, and we'll make sure that we get those answers out to you. We really appreciate if you've joined us for all 4 weeks or for 1 week, taking the time out of your time to figure out how to best serve your association during the coronavirus. We look forward to, if we need to have a webcast sooner than later, we'll jump on before 2 or 3 weeks from now if necessary. But the next week, our focus is communicating to our owners on our common areas, what the plan is during the different phases. And we hope that some of you can join us tomorrow for the board lunch and learn on directors and officers insurance. We will also record that and post that on our YouTube channel as we every week. We learn new things to do and to save and to record and to repeat, and we're grateful for your patience with us. Thanks for joining us tonight, and we look forward to the next time that we can all be talking again. Thank you. Have a good night.